the atmosphere was back at Citizens Bank Park. It's like the first time in probably, 10 years that we saw it like that at Citizens Bank Park. Bob Wankel crossing Broad, Phillies in first place. Not only in first place, with a little room, a little separation. The Mets are in third place now, 2.5 back. The Braves actually are in second place, just 2 games behind the Phils. Phils have the night off. They'll play the Dodgers tomorrow. The Mets have a stretch coming up, Bob, where they play 13 out of 16 against the Dodgers or Giants. So is this going to be a 2-horse race down the stretch?
No, I don't think so, actually. Listen, the Phillies have done a great job here to jump into first place, even create a little bit of cushion. I mean, to gain 7 games in the standings in an 8-day stretch is simply remarkable. But even with the Mets' upcoming schedule, the Phillies have a little bit of a tough road ahead of them here in the short term as well. And despite how well they've played, they are still a flawed team. 1 week of good baseball, really good baseball, does not completely wipe away 4+ months of mediocre baseball. And so to think that the Phillies are just going to run away with this thing now and separate from the Mets entirely, as bad as New York has played, I think is unrealistic. I still think that all 3 of these teams will be down, going in it together down the stretch.
Yeah, obviously the Phillies are playing really good baseball right now. They've won 8 in a row. What are some of the things that they have done during this 8-game stretch that they were not doing that we've talked about a lot about? Well, we can't buy into this team. We can't believe in them. What has changed over the 8-game stretch?
Listen, I mean, the one thing that you can really point to is the offense. You go back to this offense, right, and look at what they did in April, May, and June. They had the 7th most strikeouts in all of baseball. Now they have the 3rd least since July 1st. They were middle of the pack in terms of home runs. They've hit the most home runs in baseball since July 1st. You look at their OPS as a team since July 1st, 2nd best in baseball. And it's weird because, they've had games where they've struggled offensively. But by and large, right now, what they're getting is someone stepping up and taking care of business what needs to be taken care of on a night-to-night basis. It seems like they're just getting a different guy every night, kind of 3 different guys carrying the load game to game. And that's something that they've not really had happen with any consistency whatsoever for the first few months of this season.
They still don't play very good defense, right? I mean, and in the end, that could be the biggest Achilles heel here. But the starting pitching, if they can get Eflin back with those 5 guys, you got to feel pretty good about that. I was talking about this earlier. If any team should know, if you're in the playoffs, you've got a shot. I mean, they lost to the Giants and Cardinals in back-to-back years where they were clearly the better team in the regular season. If you have the pitching and you get into a series, this team would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think so. And right now, I mean, it looks like they would match up with Milwaukee if they were to win the National League East. It certainly looks like the Brewers are going to win the Central. And if that's the case, I mean, Milwaukee's been a little bit better themselves offensively, but still not a team that hits a ton. They have 2-3 very good starting pitchers at the top of the rotation, and they have Josh Hader in the back of the bullpen. It's a good team, but it's not a team. It wouldn't be a David versus Goliath scenario for the Phillies by any stretch of the imagination. So, you have an opportunity to get in and things can get weird, and all of a sudden you find yourselves in an NLCS. And I mean, even if the Phillies don't advance beyond that, considering recent history, that would be a heck of a season for this team.
Right. I mean, you look at where this team was for the last X amount of years and where they are right now. I mean, the fact if they just got into a playoff series and then won one, I mean, that would be a massive win for the organization moving forward. Somebody texted in earlier and said, I don't even, they're concerned that if they win, that would make them kind of bring this team and keep them together. Do you see that kind of situation?
No, because they're going to keep this team together. There's not a ton of flexibility here. I mean, any concern about, if they miss the playoffs again, they're going to break the team up. I mean, what they'll do is, or what they could do is move someone like Rhys Hoskins, which we've talked about numerous times on this show. But is that really the thing that is automatically going to make them better? I mean, I think that the Phillies know moving forward beyond this year, regardless of what happens, that this team is not in position to compete with the elite teams in Major League Baseball. And so I think that they recognize that they could use one more big bat in the middle of this lineup. I think that they know that they could use another starting pitcher to pair with Kyle Gibson, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler. I think that there's a lot of different things that they're going to evaluate moving forward, and maybe even the future of Aaron Nola and how he fits in with this organization and fits into this rotation. And I still think they know that they're short in the bullpen. So the Phillies winning the National League East, I don't think creates a mirage or a false sense of security for this front office.
Hey, give me your thought on, because we talked on Friday, would they come out? Would the team buy into, the fans buy into it? It felt like this weekend, where I was watching the game in a bar, and it was people getting up, high-fiving. I mean, people were into it. The fans were into it. It feels like there has been a little bit of a shift in the belief of this team.
Yeah, I really think that Thursday's game in Washington was the first time where fans said, whoa, that was a game that they kind of looked at. They were going to go out and sort of lay a dud. They fight their way back, complete the sweep, and then they take care of business Friday. A lot of Mets fans down there Friday night, by the way. They take care of business Saturday. They hold on. A lot of Mets fans down there Saturday. But yesterday, it was almost entirely a Phillies crowd. They were excited from the very first pitch. There was palpable buzz in the air that I think didn't really even have anything to do with the Roy Halladay ceremony. That was a fantastic ceremony. Phillies did a great job with it. Fans were certainly there to see it. But you could tell 2-3 minutes before first pitch, that stadium was buzzing, man. And you said it. It's probably been about 10 years since we've seen anything like that. And that was certainly my takeaway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The fact and look, the fact that it went into outside of the stadium was people wherever you may have been watching that game on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, people were into it. People were watching. People were clapping. People were high-fiving. It now feels, you wonder if the team understands that and sees that, and can they handle that?
Yeah, that's a big question. But you know what? Based on what we saw this weekend, a very short sample, certainly they're playing with a ton of momentum. Things are going right. They've always been good at home, even as a mediocre team. But it certainly looked like they were able to handle the moment this weekend. And, one thing that I've been very critical with this team is that I said they kind of lack a killer instinct. They aren't really good at kind of stepping on opponents' throats when they're down. And we saw them do that to a team this week that had a 4.5 game lead on them 8 days ago. And so, listen, for me to be critical of that, I have to, tip my cap, so to speak. They showed a different gear and a different killer instinct that I have not seen from this core in 3+ seasons.
Well, and the interesting part about that is you're starting to see a likable team. This team was not likable, and they're becoming likable because Gene Segura hits a home run and he shows that he's into it. Now, I thought with Segura the other day when he said, I've been in the league for 10 years, I haven't made the playoffs. That was kind of like an eye-opening comment of there's not very many guys on this team who have even made the playoffs. McCutchen, I think, is one of them. Did Harper make the playoffs? They made it once. They didn't get out of that. He was on that team with Strasburg when they didn't pitch him. But they don't have a lot, they don't have a lot of playoff experience on this team.
No, they don't. And that is the value of the Phillies making a postseason run. You want guys to play in important games, have some success in important games, kind of create some belief, and some experience in those types of situations. And when you look up and down this roster and see how little of it they have, I think that the experience, even if it doesn't result in a World Series appearance or even if it doesn't result in an NLCS appearance, I think can be extremely valuable for a team moving forward, even though this isn't a particularly young team by nature. It's still a young team in terms of experience and postseason play.
Now, this is getting a little ahead of ourselves, but if the Phillies made the playoffs, Zach Wheeler throws game 1, correct?
Oh, yeah. I think that he's well on his way at this point after yesterday to being the National League Cy Young Award winner. So, yes.
Well, I'm just making sure, Nola pitched opening day and.
No. Listen, I'll tell you what, I think that Aaron Nola at any given game can go out and be more dominant than a guy like Kyle Gibson. But right now, if you had to go win a game tomorrow and you had to pick,
100%.
and you couldn't use Zach Wheeler, you'd probably take your shot to Kyle Gibson. I mean, he's had a better year. It's not even close.
Yeah, I thought Gibson on Friday night kind of set the tone getting out of that inning and showing some, pizzazz. And, it looked like it could have been a disastrous start to that series, and he kind of got them out of that. The addition of him, and then we'll see once Suarez gets stretched out. They might go from two guys. This is another thing, Bob. The fact that they got rid of the Velasquez, Moore, Anderson, those three, you can watch all 5 nights now and feel you got a shot to win. You went into 2 nights thinking we are losing tonight.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, they do have some complications here because we still don't have a firm timeline on Zach Eflin. I think the hope is that he returns at some point later this month or maybe in the beginning of September, but he's been out for such an extended period of time now that even when he throws a bullpen, then the next hurdle will probably be at least 1 rehab start. So we don't really know what Zach Eflin's status is. Ranger Suarez has been good in very limited amounts of innings as a starter both times through the rotation, but they're going to run into a problem likely this weekend, assuming they use the day off in the rotation and skip the day off there. Chase Anderson's on the IL, and not that that's some huge loss, but they're probably going to have to either do a pure bullpen game or use some combination of Vince Velasquez should he come off the IL. I saw him throwing this weekend in the bullpen, so he's coming back. I know you're excited.
Utter dejection.
Or do they go back to Matt Moore and maybe take that start this weekend? So we'll see. I mean, we're not quite out of the Anderson, Moore, Velasquez woods yet in terms of the rotation.
Well, with the off day today, could they not go back to Wheeler in the last game of the Dodgers? What's today? Monday? Oh, he threw yesterday. Could they pitch him on, Thursday?
So they're going to go Nola. They're going to go Nola on Tuesday. They'll come back with Gibson on Wednesday. And right now they haven't announced the starter for Thursday's game. In theory, they could come back with Ranger Suarez on Thursday. And then they can come back with Wheeler to open the Cincinnati series on Friday. But then Saturday is the issue. That would be somebody on short rest. So I think they're going to kind of have their luck run out come the middle of the Cincinnati series. They're going to have to fill that rotation spot somehow.
Yeah, but, I mean, you take especially if you've split the first 2 games with the Dodgers, you got to take your best shot there, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, the Phillies need to make sure, if nothing else, and listen, after they rattle off 8 straight, everyone's talking playoffs. Like, I don't want to lower the expectations to the point where you say they've just got to win 1. But, I mean, they really just have to make sure that they don't run into a total disaster this week against the Dodgers. They need 1, and tomorrow night's going to be very difficult with Max Scherzer on the mound, who they've had a heck of a time with this season, going up against Aaron Nola, who, if we're being honest here, you just don't know what you're going to get from him in start to start.
Well, they lucked out by Buehler going yesterday. They avoided him,
did.
Right?
They sure did, yep.
Well, are you watching this series as how do they stack up? Or we know the Dodgers are better than them. That's not a debate. But where are you on the pantheon?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, if the Dodgers come out and overwhelm the Phillies for 3 straight games this week, I think that's going to throw some cold water on the excitement. But I don't think that you can walk away from this series no matter what happens. I mean, heck, even if the Phillies sweep this series, I mean, people will be going crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can come Thursday night objectively take a step back and say, oh, well, this team's better than the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're not.
No.
But that's the thing with baseball, right, Mike? I mean, I'm not talking about.
You can make the argument that right now the Dodgers are the 2011 Phillies. They are such a prohibitive favorite, and, the Phillies lost to the freaking Cardinals, who had like 89 wins.
I think they had 83 wins, that 2011 Cardinals team. And that's the point. You come into this, you get into a playoff situation against a prohibitive favorite. I mean, listen, you're not talking about the current 2021 Washington Nationals going up against the Dodgers here. The Phillies have some guns. They have some elite level players. And if those guys can rev it up for a short series, anything really truly is possible. But listen, that's getting a little bit ahead of things here. There is a long way to go. But I do think, like we've said, and even when things were going really poorly for this team, they're going to be there at the end of September. Can they finish the deal? And that's going to be the question.
Yeah, and obviously the Phillies, Harper. What has changed with Harper in your mind that has him? This is one of the best we've seen him go. Period.
I just think that he's on such a hot stretch right now that he's not trying to do too much. Like, I think that he sees that and listen, they've had injuries, and I know it's kind of crazy. They've done it with a number of part-time players in the lineup on a daily basis, but I really think that he's just not pressing at this point. He's not trying to do too much. He's not trying to hit 2 home runs every single game. I mean, there's so many times where he works walks. He'll single. He'll slap balls between third base and second base, and he's hitting against the shift. I mean, he's just doing it all right now, and he's so locked in. And to be honest with you, I don't want to oversimplify, but I think that he's probably feeling a little bit better in terms of his overall health than he has at other points this season. He's been, for my money, one of the 5 best players in Major League Baseball from an offensive standpoint this season, and the numbers don't lie. I mean, he's been that good.
Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad, Phillies off tonight, Dodgers tomorrow, 3-game set, no Mets tonight. They are playing the Nationals before they go through a brutal stretch coming up. I mean, they are 13 out of 16 against the Dodgers and San Fran. They go out there to play a West Coast swing against those two, and their offense is pitiful, man, pitiful. I don't know. You said you think it might be a 3-teamer. I don't know. I think that Met team might just kind of fade away. They just don't have the horses in my estimation, man.
I just look at their lineup and can't believe guys like Michael Conforto have struggled the way that they have. I mean, this is a player that has had a multi-season track record of being one of the better offensive players in the National League. And right now, he's completely lost. And the one thing that jumped out at you watching the Mets this weekend is that they cannot hit fastballs right now. And I have no idea why that's the case, but they're just getting their doors blown off at the plate by, anything that's 94 plus up and down the lineup. It's unbelievable to watch. But that being said, the back end of the Mets bullpen still remains fairly solid. If they get Jacob deGrom back before this thing gets out of hand, which is a big if, that's going to obviously provide a boost. But they've got to hang on for dear life here over the next 10 days. And if they don't take care of business at home this week against a really bad Nationals team, they are in a world of trouble. But as for Atlanta, that's a team that made a lot of moves at the deadline, sort of reinvented itself. They're playing with a lot of energy right now. And, we'll see what happens with them.
I think one other thing. All right, McCutchen, what's going on there?
I think that the sense is that he's getting close. I watched him work out on the field before yesterday's game, and he was moving around pretty well, doing cone drills and side-to-side agility type exercises, and he didn't look too limited. So I would expect that Andrew McCutchen will be available to come off the IL as soon as his stint is up. And so I do think that they feel pretty confident that he'll be back in the very near future here.
All right, we got that. Oh, when's Galvis supposed to be playing?
Freddie Galvis is taking ground balls pregame. We saw him working out a couple times, both on Saturday and Sunday pregame. I think the expectation is that you'll see Galvis come back in the next 7 to 10 days. He may need a couple games at Lehigh Valley or at Reading to work his way back because he's been out since the very end of June. So you're talking about basically a 7-week stretch by the time he comes back. And then the question really is about Rhys Hoskins. That's Rhys Hoskins is the scary one. You don't really know what's going on there. He misses a big series against the Mets. I don't believe will play tomorrow night with Max Scherzer in the lineup. That would be 5 straight days where he's been out. If they can't get him back and they don't believe that he's going to be ready to go in this Dodger series, he's probably going to head to the IL.
Right, retroactive.
Yeah. So I think that's what they're looking at there. So you kind of have to hold your breath. And I know Odubel Herrera was a late scratch before yesterday's game with an Achilles injury that I think he's kind of been dealing with, just general soreness. I don't think that's overly serious.
Yeah.
Is the sense that I get at this point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too because if you are in a situation where Hoskins misses time, do you move Bohm to play first and Galvis play some third, or Torreyes? So you got to play someone else at third when Gibson pitches, right?
Yeah, you want someone else to play third base when Kyle Gibson's on the mound. Like pairing Didi Gregorius, who's a substandard defensive shortstop at this point in his career, and Alec Bohm, and you saw his adventures this weekend. It's a recipe for a disaster. But again, by the time Galvis gets back, you would hope Hoskins is back. So that would give you a little bit of flexibility on the left side. Maybe you try to get an early lead, play to your offensive strengths, and then use Galvis as a defensive replacement. They have some options.
They do. This team is getting interesting. I mean, we had some interesting conversations a month ago. It looked terrible. It looked bleak, and here they are all of a sudden. Again, are they the favorite to win the World Series? No. But this division, it's like the NFC East a couple of years ago, and then the Eagles got in, and then the double doink happened. Could follow same suit, brother.
Yeah, it reminds me of the 09 World Series with Alex Rodriguez, right? Off the camera well. That's the equivalent to the baseball doink. So maybe the baseball gods will smile on the Phillies here if they get in.
All right. Well, I will not be here Friday. I will not see you then. So good talking to you, man. By Friday, it'll be what? Philly? Who they play after the Dodgers?
Reds, who are no joke, man. That team can swing it.
They can hit.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I am off Thursday, Friday. I won't be back till the 23rd.
Wow. So Phillies get good and then you disappear for 2 weeks. Unbelievable.
Hey, hopefully I can follow suit, man. If I get home and tell you I won the World Series, that'd be pretty neat. And then
there you go. Yeah. Best of luck to you. Be following along with that. So.
All right, man. Well, I'll talk to you at some point.
All right, Mike. Talk to you soon, man.